Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit. Today, we're diving deep into an energy crisis that could send shockwaves across North America, shaking its very foundation. For decades, Canada has stood as the #1 supplier of crude oil to the U.S., delivering a staggering 60% of its oil imports. This reliable partnership has fueled industries, powered homes, and kept gas prices relatively stable. But now, that relationship is on the verge of collapse. Tensions are flaring, trade disputes are escalating, and Canada has issued a bold warning: a complete shutdown of oil exports to the U.S. If that threat becomes reality, the impact would be catastrophic. Gas prices could soar beyond imagination, businesses could face economic ruin, and the ripple effects could shake global markets to their core. With time slipping away, the U.S. is scrambling to find solutions before it's too late. So, what exactly led us to this breaking point? Let's break down the 7 critical factors fueling this crisis. Factor number 7. Trade war turbulence. U.S. tariffs on Canadian oil. At the heart of this unfolding disaster lies a major economic gamble by the U.S. Massive tariffs on Canadian exports. Under the guise of protecting domestic industries, the U.S. slapped a 10% tariff on key Canadian goods, including crude oil. For years, American refineries have depended heavily on Canada's heavy crude oil, specifically designed for U.S. refining systems. But now, thanks to these tariffs, that same essential fuel has become significantly more expensive to process. What once was a streamlined, profitable trade has suddenly turned into an economic nightmare. To Canada, this wasn't just a policy shift, it was a direct economic attack. And with plenty of eager buyers around the world, Canada started to rethink its strategy. The U.S. had always been Canada's biggest oil customer, but suddenly it wasn't adding up anymore. Selling oil to the U.S. was no longer the easy, profitable transaction it had always been. And the worst part? Washington never saw the retaliation coming. Factor number 6. Canada fights back. Oil cutoff in the crosshairs. Canada isn't backing down? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has made it clear, if the U.S. doesn't roll back these tariffs, Canada is prepared to shut off crude oil exports entirely. And this isn't just political posturing, it's a real and viable threat. Canada has the infrastructure and market connections to divert its oil elsewhere. Countries like China and India have already expressed strong interest in buying up Canada's supply. For the U.S., the consequences would be severe. American refineries are specifically designed to process Canadian heavy crude. Switching to another oil source would be an expensive and time-consuming nightmare. Without Canadian oil, the U.S. would be forced to rely on unstable alternatives like OPEC or Venezuela, both of which come with their own risks and unreliable supply chains. If Canada shifts its exports to Asia, the U.S. could permanently lose its most dependable oil supplier, setting the stage for a long-term energy disaster. Factor number 5. Gas price mayhem. A crisis at the pump. Imagine waking up and seeing gas prices at $7, $8, or even $9 per gallon within days. If Canada cuts off its oil supply, that nightmare could become reality. But the chaos wouldn't stop at the pump. The entire transportation industry, including truckers who keep America running, would struggle under soaring diesel costs. The impact? Prices on groceries, electronics, and household essentials would skyrocket. And it gets worse. Airlines, which rely heavily on jet fuel, would be forced to raise ticket prices, disrupting both business and leisure travel. Inflation would surge as production and transportation costs spiral out of control, creating an economic storm that could leave millions struggling. Investors, sensing the instability, would drive up oil futures even more, exacerbating the crisis. And here's the scary part. Even if the oil cutoff were only temporary, its effects could ripple through the economy for years, affecting businesses, financial markets, and everyday households worldwide. This isn't just an oil problem, it's a full-scale economic catastrophe waiting to happen. Before we move on to our next key factor, take a second to smash that like and subscribe button. It helps us bring you more in-depth breakdowns like this and keeps the conversation going among car and energy enthusiasts like you. Now let's shift gears to our next critical issue. Factor number 4. Why US oil can't fix this mess. Some might think, can't the US just drill more oil to make up for the loss? Nope. It's not that simple. Here's the problem. Most US oil production is light crude, while American refineries are designed specifically for heavy crude, like the oil supplied by Canada. Retooling these refineries would take years and cost billions, making an immediate fix impossible. And that's not all. The US is already pumping oil at near maximum capacity. Expanding production would require new drilling projects, infrastructure development, and regulatory approvals, none of which happen overnight. Even if the US started drilling today, it still wouldn't be enough to offset the loss from Canada. Could the US turn to OPEC or Venezuela? Not a great idea. OPEC controls the global oil supply with an iron fist, adjusting output to maximize their own profits. Not to help America? Venezuela? Their oil infrastructure is crumbling, and their supply chain is unstable at best. So, if Canada pulls the plug on its oil exports, the US won't be able to replace that supply anytime soon, leaving the country in an energy crisis unlike anything seen before. And we're just getting started. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into the final 3 factors that could determine whether this crisis spirals out of control or if a solution can be found before it's too late. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss part 2, where we uncover the final and most shocking factors behind this looming energy catastrophe. Until next time, keep those engines running, and we'll see you in the next video.